Rehabilitation and Reels project, which is, we have bid the project, and we will begin construction here soon. The terminal area study is actually being funded by some repurposed money, resulting from 100% federal grant instead of a 90% federal grant, since the county had 5%. That's for the apron rehab project. And then the CARES Act, the county received $30,000. So those monies have been budgeted and were repurposed for use to fund the terminal area study, which is underway. 2021, which is this federal fiscal year now, which began October 1st, what we're proposing is, as a result of the terminal area study, it'll better define what size building that we believe is needed to accommodate 20 years of growth in aviation activity. And once we know that, we'll know what the size is, where it's going to be located, whether it's an expansion to the existing terminal or a new building altogether. All that will be determined in the terminal area study. So for 2021, we have a placeholder here for a design fee for the terminal. Hopefully, we have tried to estimate on the high side, so hopefully it wouldn't go over that, and hopefully it would go under that. So what we're proposing in 2021 is that you'll apply your 2021 entitlement funding of $150 to offset the cost to design the terminal building. We'll pick up 5% from the state, and then the remainder would be the county share, which is $158,750 based on this estimate. So what we have in with the FAA now is a pre-application for the design, and we'll update that accordingly pending approval of this CIP, and which is the pre-application is required along with the CIP. All this is due January 1st, 2021. Terminal building for 2022, we're showing, that's a rough estimate at this point. Again, the terminal area study will help us come up with a more reliable cost estimate to construct the building. And in that year, we're showing zero from the FAA. Terminal buildings are not funded except with non-primary entitlement money, so no discretionary money goes to a terminal building from the FAA, but the state does fund up to 50% of the non-federal share here, which would be 50% of the overall cost, up to a maximum of $500,000. So that would, if all this carries forward, again, these are estimates, that would make the county share $1.5 million. The next 2 years, 23 and 24, we're rolling over entitlement funds. You can bank up to 4 years, or actually realize $600,000 in non-primary entitlements. And then after that 4 years, your entitlements begin to expire. So the way we've laid this out, you won't have any entitlement funding expiring, but we're building up some cash to design a hangar, corporate hangar, and then the next year, 2026, constructing that corporate hangar. I'll point out to you that the successful passage of the sales tax referendum provides for $900,000 to go towards the construction of this hangar. So that explains the CIP. As I understand it, we are presenting this information just for information to this committee, and we are on the agenda for the INR committee at 3 o'clock this afternoon to present the same. So if you have any questions,
I don't. Steve, you got a comment?
I was just going to note that we'll have this today and this afternoon at admin, and presuming it finds favor, then we would bring it to council at the November 23rd meeting for adoption, at which point Kim could include that in her overall master CIP for the county.
So we do need to make a motion favorably or whatever?
Yes, ma'am, we need to make a motion for recommendation, whatever the committee sees fit.
Okay, do I have a,
I do have a question, though.
okay,
And when you look at the 2022, $2 million that cost, then back up to 2021 for the design, 325,000. When we move on down to 2026 at $2 million, our design is only 200,000. That 325 seems mighty high.
I understand what you're saying. It's, again, these numbers, particularly in these outer years, are just estimates, but some of the difference, I would say, would be dealing with the terminal building versus a hangar. It's, just a big open room in terms of designing it. And there are companies out there that we would contract with, or a company that will provide the design for everything from the floor up. And that's all they do. So it's a pretty efficient design fee from their end.
does that answer your question? Any questions, Steve? Do I have a motion to send this to full council with a favorable recommendation or unfavorable?
So moved, favorable.
Favorable. Second, all in favor, raise your right hand. It will go to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Madam Committee Chair, computer should be working now. Scott said the internet is back up. We have a Comporium modem. Since it's not tied into the county network, it apparently had tripped out and they have it reset.
Okay, while we are, will the next presenter need the internet for any reason? You need time to get started.
Yes, ma'am. We can get started because there was no presentation for this.
Okay,
It's strictly verbal.
Okay. Next is discussion action item B, discussion of salary reallocation of employee that recently resigned in Central Court Magistrate Van.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Committee Chair, while Van's coming up, just so the committee will be aware, normally with personnel matters like this, we don't bring them to council. They're handled at staff level. This one's a little different in that the magistrates are not under direct supervision, and what they're requesting would involve a change in position. So felt it would be appropriate to ask council because it's not under my direct supervision.
Well, even with that, no names will be called, it'll be just positions, right?
Just he'll talk about positions and potential reallocations.
Okay. All right, Mr. Richardson.
All right, thank you, ma'am. What we want to do is we had a position who clerk recently resigned, and we want to take that money and distribute it throughout 7 other clerks that we have at the office and one of our judges, which is our chief magistrate. And the reason I can stand here today and tell you without a doubt we won't have to rehire for that position is due to the fact that employee has been out of work for a long time, and for at least for the last 10 months that I can count up. And prior to that, there were some issues where she didn't work a whole lot throughout the last several years. And our clerks, we've cross-trained them, and they all, and we've kind of gotten to the point where, we don't think we should rehire it because we don't need that position anymore. We figured out how to work things without it, and we want to take some of that money and use for our chief magistrate simply because our chief magistrate is way behind us in the pay grade, and she has a law degree, and she's fully qualified, and the learning curve now is done since she was appointed chief magistrate. She's doing the job, and she's responsible. Her name goes on it, so she should get the pay for it. And we have an opportunity here to not ask you for any additional money, and we can make this happen and give our clerks that picked up the slack for that other position, give them some money and get this other issue solved too. And that's what we would like to do with your approval, of course.
Any questions,
Do you have a spreadsheet on how much is going to go where?
We don't, actually, it's, I can give you it's $33,000 is what we have to work with the salary. Actually, this clerk was our longest, standing clerk that we had. So she made the most of all the clerks that were there. So we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it would be split equally between the 7 clerks, and we're going to need somewhere in the neighborhood of about $8,000 or $9,000 to get the chief magistrate pay up.
Let me ask I know in the past we've dealt with magistrate salaries, and they had to have additional raises because those salaries were set by the state. Do they set the salaries for all employees?
No, just the magistrates. The magistrate salaries are
Just the judges?
Yeah, they're set by law. And our county then did a study, and we actually, you have to progress throughout the years. And the chief magistrate now, she's been chief magistrate for 3 years, but she was only a judge for 3 months when they put her in that position. But I had the position prior to that, and we all worked together, and I've helped, and now it's to the point where her name's on it, and she's doing it, and she's doing a great job, and she deserved to pay for it. And these clerks deserve that money for picking up that slack and learning other jobs. And so that's basically what we're looking at, what we want to do.
Anything else?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is needed and all that, but I wish we'd have known before the meeting, because you're saying about 8,000 goes to chief magistrate. Which doesn't really sound like a lot to me in the scheme of that position, probably. But I sure would have liked to have looked at other counties to see what they're paying, so we would know.
But some of these raises
that
going
we're
to
in
come out.
line.
Well, I don't know whether we're in line, but I certainly do know that our chief magistrate is not making any money. I know that much. And I don't think any position where, if you're a chief of anything, you got to make more than your employees. And at this point, that's not happening.
She's actually the lowest paid of them.
Yeah, so we need to.
And basically, we're asking for a policy decision because, again, normally something like this I would just handle internally, never come to council.
But part of this goes to the magistrates.
Chief magistrate.
Chief magistrate.
But isn't that salary set by the state?
A floor is set, not
we make up
the
the
actual
difference,
salary, but you have a floor that is set by the state.
We make up the difference in those salaries.
Many counties pay more than the floor, and ours.
But in this case, since they answered the delegation, the actual distribution, I would work with the chief magistrate to handle that. I just want to make sure council is aware and
Yeah, normally.
overarching idea.
Normally, if this was not a situation where our chief magistrate was not making as much as the people under her, it would be different. But this is a situation with any chief. It's like the sheriff making less than his major. That is a problem. So.
And just so y'all be aware, originally the chief justice was
Is that right, Bear?
a rotation
Am
system.
I right, Bear?
It was planning on a rotation system for the chief magistrates. They did it one time. There was some pushback from the legislature, and it's just been frozen ever since. So, as you indicated, it's a situation where we thought it was going to be a 6-month situation based on the chief justice. We did do a stipend, but looks like it's just going to stay that way.
Hey, would you say, Steve, this is a one-time occurrence where the chief magistrate is making less than her employees? So I don't think this is something that happens all the time. It's just the situation that they were in, I think, caused that salary problem.
I agree the chief magistrate needs to make more than the other magistrates. But we're also talking about clerks, and we're sitting there with the probate judge looking at us, and is this going to put your clerks at a higher position than her clerks? And I just think we're being asked to make a decision today that I just don't have enough data on. But I'm supportive of the idea. And just as sure as I do this, when we get stopped for speeding this afternoon,
Charge him. But anyway, I think, the key things here is cross-training, which is good. and they're not going over and asking us for anything out of their budget. And I think if any department can manage within their budget and not come to us for additional funds, we can look at that. But I think every situation is different when it comes to departments, when we're doing this, but I just don't think it's right for us to expect our chief manager to make less than her staff. And I think that's in any department, in any business that we're doing. Our chairman here certainly makes way more than we do. So I think it's only right.
So next year's budget will be one less clerk, right, man?
Yes.
Okay, Roger, better say
That was one thing
judge.
I asked. They're not coming
Okay.
back in.
The budget will not increase from what I have
I mean,
been told.
budget is flat. We're just looking at the concept, and like I said, normally this would never come to council, but I don't control the magistrates, so I wanted to make sure council was aware.
Anything else, Alan?
No, my motion would be to up the, chief magistrate's position by $8,000, and we hold it in abeyance till we get more information on the clerks.
Was that the recommendation on her salary, $8,000?
Well, it's, I believe, she makes, if you don't mind, let me do some figuring here. She's at 65 right now with the stipend. So,
Yeah, we can talk about the chief magistrate. They make over 50,000, so we're legal talking about that salary.
What other information are we looking for on
I
clerks?
think what Alan wants to know about is information on what the clerks are making.
Well, I still want to do some more studying on the, chief magistrate too, though, just to make sure we're fair across all aspects of our county here. But I don't mind going ahead and getting this much done for her as a recommendation to full council, because full council will make the ultimate decision anyway. By then, we'll have more time to study and decide whether or not it's fair and equitable.
well, you know, in looking at it too, I make, I'm the highest paid judge. I make about 85, a little under. So if we needed to bring her to that, it would be more than what I was saying.
More than 8.
It'd be about 20.
Well, it'd be most of that $33,000.
And there'll be 13,000 left to distribute between the clerks. I apologize, I didn't realize it was that much. I was kind of going by what I was.
I think even when we move forward, we need Steve to know exactly how much that increase is going to be, because it's got to be more than a staff person.
Yes, ma'am.
And can we move this forward with a positive recommendation with the amount, what is going to be coming to full council?
Well,
Wait a minute, you said it's $50,000 or more.
well, I was just saying, you know, basically they were asking for policy decision, you know, what do y'all feel? Unless there's a split decision, I'm not planning on bringing this full to council. It's just,
Okay.
I need to know how council, because like I said, normally I would take care of this personally, but they don't answer to me.
Well, we've got how many employees in this county, and we gotta make sure what we do is justifiable to all concerned, and I just don't have the data right now to feel good about it. If you're not gonna take the full council, then my thought process right now is to hold it till next admin meeting. Let's look at some numbers.
Well, I don't think we're going to have another, because this is November.
Madam Chairman.
We'll have
Wait
December.
a minute, not a meeting, planned meeting, right, Steve? Are we going to have one in
There is a
December?
scheduled December admin meeting, yes.
Okay. Steve, any comments? You know, I personally don't want to drag this out any further, because I think as a committee, we need to make a decision, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. Steve said we didn't have to take it to full council. I can go with that, but we've got to understand is we're putting our chief master in a position where she's not making as much as that. That to me is embarrassing.
Well, you know, that's
have
been
you-
going on for how long? And so now.
How long has it been going on? Yeah. I know she's on her to get some money. How long has it been going on?
She's been there over 3 years. So.
I mean, why didn't this come up at budget time last time?
I don't think they knew that the lady was coming back, the staff person.
See, the Chief Justice said when he made her appointment, I was appointed Chief Magistrate. And every Chief Magistrate in the past, once you were appointed Chief Magistrate, you were there until you basically retired or you messed up so bad you got fired, okay? So that's the concept we've worked off of. I've been there going on 17 years. That's been the concept ever since I've been there. I assumed when I was appointed I would have it till then. Well, the Chief Justice changed. We went from Chief Justice Toll to Chief Justice Polonis and now to Chief Justice Beatty. He had a different philosophy, and he decided that he was going to spread that Chief Magistrate job around. And he said he was going to appoint somebody new out of the office every 6 months. So the first time he appointed, in our office, he appointed our Chief Magistrate, which took me out of the position. And, and I was, quite frankly devastated, because I had prepared for this. But I don't have anything to do, but what I did was I picked up my coworker and we worked through this, and I helped her with the knowledge that I have gained over the years and still will, but she's to the point where she doesn't need my help. She's got this in law. She's a lawyer. I mean, she's the only one of us that has a law degree, and that's worth a lot for our county to have a judge that is an attorney, and she's worth doing this for. I won't promise y'all.
I would just, even whichever way it goes, I like to recommend the staff, the other judges and the staff, to willing to come before the council and speak on behalf of your chief magistrate. That says a lot.
We would have all been here today. Judge Vecchio is not feeling well, and of course Judge Ingram is running the office, and Judge Thomas is going through cancer treatments with his throat. He has radiation every day, and he's getting to where he can't really do much speaking. But, so I was kind of last man standing, but glad to do it. Honored to do it, actually. We'll accept whatever decision you all make. If you need some more information, if that's what you want, we can definitely put that together. It won't be complicated. It'll be very simple, and I'm sure that those.
So, Alan, what is it exactly you need about this $33,000 that they're spreading across the staff? What you need?
I would just simply look at what how this affects other clerks, whatever amount that we're going to give these clerks, and then I would just simply take the South Carolina Association of Counties pay scales they do every 2 years, and compare our magistrate's rate with theirs. Now, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to default back to the fact that she needs 20 just to catch up to the top, and I like that. I mean, I want her to be up there. I think that's the right thing to do. But I just, again, we come to a meeting like this, and all of a sudden we're blindsided, being asked to give somebody a $20,000 pay raise without any data. I just think that.
Well, let me ask you a question, Al. If it comes back that we're underpaying clerks, then what gonna happen? Opposed to the Association of Counties and other departments. Then what are we gonna do when we're going into our New Year's budget?
Well,
up the salary?
What I'm saying, well, if we can, we will, just like we did on the attendance at the convenience centers. Those are the things we have to weigh and look at.
They were making nothing anyway, so.
Our clerks might be making nothing too.
I can assure you that they are.
That's fine. But I'm just saying, though.
I understand. I understand.
I just think we ought to defer this for 1 month, is all I'm asking, and I'm really leaning favorably. Don't get me wrong. That's not the purpose. Is to find reason not to. It's just to justify as to why we did what we did. I don't want to get emails in a day or so. Well, I don't make this, and y'all gave Susie Q.
Now, what I think they're going to see is the department coming forward on behalf of their Chief Justice, just like if it was Barry, just like it was Veronica. I think it's good when you've got a staff willing to speak and support their supervisor. Now, that's one thing we're getting out of this. The information that you need to make a decision is a whole different thing. But, and I'm sure once we do that, we're gonna find out that most of our clerks are underpaid. We know that. But if departments can work together and make recommendations like this, I think we all can move forward together. Steve?
One thing might be helpful, I can certainly work with Van, and we can report back in December. I'm sure, even if, with what you're proposing, these folks are not gonna be above their market rate.
No way.
I don't see
There are not that many people in the county that close. I'm pretty sure, but I can't sit here and say I know for sure. But we can certainly report back that whatever's being proposed would not take them above their market compensation.
Well, we will place this on the December agenda, and please, Van, don't misunderstand the position because,
completely, and
you know,
I apologize for not having it all lined out. I didn't know exactly what to expect. Never done this before, and you know, we are moving money that's already there, not increasing the budget. But I do understand, you know, you want to see where it's going to put the other clerks in reference to other employees. I understand that. And just to let you know, too, this is not the Chief Justice's idea. I mean, the Chief Magistrate's idea. This was it was our other three magistrates' idea.
One other question going forward, though, with our Chief Justice and his idea of changing the Chief Magistrates every 6 months, and he obviously hadn't done that in Lancaster.
He hadn't done it hardly anywhere in the state. I think there was, like Steve said,
the state was frozen because the Senate pushed back pretty hard about that idea, and so it just got frozen. But it got frozen with the new people in position.
I mean, if you can imagine a change in leadership every 6 months, what that does to you got to change that person's pay. You got to put somebody else in there. You got to take money from this one and give it to that one. It's really would be a difficult task to do that. I think Chief Justice Beatty had good intentions of doing it, but I think when it came to fruition, he decided that was probably not the best thing to do. At least he hasn't done it, so I'm gonna have to assume that.
so Ben, when he moved these positions around, did the salary change, or he just let?
Well, if somebody gets appointed chief magistrate, they will get that stipend, and we set the stipend up because of this, because we thought this is going to change, so we'll have to switch it and take it from this one to give it to that one, so it won't be chaos for Veronica and HR. So, but then when we had this employee resign, you know, we looked at things and said, you know, this is the time to make this right. You know, here's some money that we don't have to, you know, don't have to ask for any new money, and we can reward our clerks for doing a good job, and we can get the chief magistrate back up to snuff. So.
You got how many clerks? 8?
We got 7 now with the loss of that one. Yeah.
After that, so.
Yep.
I would like to see the salary information on like the 3 counties larger than us and smaller than us, such as Sumter.
Yes, we can get you the market rate.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if they make over
Well,
50, it's public information.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean,
Well, some of the clerks wouldn't, but maybe.
no, I'm talking about the chief,
The chief
magistrates.
magistrates.
Yeah.
We can check. Like I said, the state actually sets a floor, but it varies beyond that.
Yeah, but if they're,
I know
back over 50 is
the
public.
next 3, because I know Sumter's the next one. I'm not sure. Dorchester, I think, maybe. I'll
3 above and below. And if it doesn't show up, you know,
All right,
they might.
any other questions to, man, before he leaves?
No.
Anything else? Thank you.
For your time.
And we'll
Appreciate y'all.
have you on the December agenda.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.
We're now down to discussion action item C, update on requested probate court position, Judge D. Strubaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for allowing me to present to you this morning. You should already have a spreadsheet that we provided in advance. The first 3 lines give us an overview. As you can see, it's a comparison of January 1 through October 31st of both years, 2019 to 2020. And we've narrowed it down to our decedents' estates cases, our guardianships and conservatorships, and the IVC is the involuntary commitment process, which we used to call mental health. As you can see, we are continuing to get more and more decedents' estates cases opened, but less closed due to our backlog, showing that we need this full-time position. On the second line, the new Article 5, the new law that took effect in January of 2019, requires more court oversight over these guardianship and conservatorship cases, meaning that no longer do we just open the case and let it plug along until the case is closed. We are required to oversee the fiduciaries. It helps protect against abuse of vulnerable people. And so we are requiring more and more oversight. That is an additional reason for another staff person. We're trying to, everyone is cross-trained, but we're also trying to specialize and have one clerk who not only handles the decedents' estates cases, but also the guardianship and conservatorship cases, and really oversee those and make sure that the fiduciaries are acting properly. The involuntary commitment cases, the chairwoman of this committee, I want to thank you for your question whenever I appeared before the full council at the budget retreat. You asked some really tough questions, and we went back to find the answers. And what we discovered is the answer to what we've been trying to figure out all along, in why are our involuntary commitment cases exploding. And thank you, Council Member Blackman, for your questions and your concern for the mental health of our citizens. So what we have learned is that the mental health issues in this county are not a result of the citizens of Lancaster County. It's a result of bed availability within Lancaster County. And so what we have done about that is the court started appointing an independent designated examiner to provide information to the court so that we could really judge what the information was provided to us. And you will see on the third chart that those are comparisons month by month. This is at the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see the number of cases that are added, and going from January through March, those are with 2 facilities open within our county. April through October, we only have 1 facility open in our county. And you can see that many of the issues that we are dealing with in mental health are a result of coronavirus, because people who were already having problems are no longer able to meet face-to-face with their counselors, no longer able to get the services that they need, and so they are suffering more. You will see that more of our cases have been going to a hearing, and you will see that we are committing more people through the involuntary commitment process than dismissing them. And I thank you for your tough questions. So what we realized is that these are not all Lancaster County residents. They are residents from all over the state of South Carolina who have become the subject of involuntary commitment process and are transported from all over the county, which also impacts the sheriff's departments. Do you have any questions?
So you're saying on that bottom left chart there, that increase in committed is really a coronavirus type result possibly?
Well, I can't speak to that specifically. I'm saying that what I'm seeing anecdotally is an increase in the number of cases that we are seeing come through the involuntary commitment process as a result of the coronavirus. And there is a new diagnosis, COVID-related anxiety. So did I answer your question? It's an anecdotal summary on my part. You will also see that in September and October, the number of cases that are committed are decreasing. And a reason for that, I'm not really able to speak publicly about that, other than the probate court is trying to work proactively with the facilities in our area.
Judge, one thing you might want to explain to the committee, I know some of the research I've been reading, ever since March, when the coronavirus hit, a lot of the group treatment therapy type programs shut down, which caused a tremendous relapse in some of the substance abuse addictions, which in turn just got dumped on your court.
That's right. What he said is correct. I don't know how I can add to that. it's a good summary, and the social distancing, everything, and many of the people who are testifying in the proceedings are telling me, yeah, I wasn't able to meet face-to-face, and I'm only FaceTiming, and I can't really get the help that I need. And you will also hear counselors say that it's hard for them because they can't pick up on body language as much through the FaceTime. But I will say that the coronavirus and going virtual has been a humongous benefit. It's been a great thing in that it's been a game changer for my court. It has allowed family members, if someone has, for example, been transported from Charleston County, no bed available in Charleston County, they are transported here and are treated here. They go to a full-blown hearing in front of Lancaster County where they are physically located. I am now, with the virtual hearings, able to allow family members who would not be able to get off work and drive up here, but can get their smartphone and appear via Zoom and testify and provide information to the court. And you will see that reflected in the numbers as well.
Judge, let me ask you a question. When they're out of county, does the money follow the client?
When you say the money,
I mean, the funding for that services in, let's say, Richland County. If you had to service someone in Lancaster that originally lives in Richland, does any of that funding, do you get any funding on behalf of that client?
no. I think what the cost to each individual county is, number one, the sheriff's department who is transporting the patient. So Sheriff Bell may be able to help me answer this question, but in your example, the Richland County resident would be transported by the Richland County Sheriff's Department to Lancaster County. That person would be admitted into a facility, and we're completely talking about involuntary process right now, would be admitted to Lancaster County facility. We are not paying, the county is not paying for the treatment of that individual. That will be insurance or Medicare or Medicaid or something like that. So
I guess that's what I'm speaking of. Would Medicaid or insurance follow that client?
yes.
But it doesn't reimburse her for the additional work that she has to do, handling all these out of.
And that's where
That's
I'm
correct.
getting at.
And just to be clear, I don't know the answer to some of your questions. I don't know about insurance funding and how the patient's care is paid for. That is between the patient and the facility.
None of it gets to your department.
I'm sorry?
None of it gets to your department.
Correct.
There is no revenue that comes to the county for the additional services that probate has to provide.
Stephen,
And I've actually talked to Judge Studebaker about how we could maybe on some statewide legislation or something, make this a little more fair, because Lancaster County is carrying a burden
from other
probate
counties,
from
yeah.
other counties, and we're
And
not.
that's why I asked, there gotta be some way for you to be compensated for providing services to individuals that's not residents of Lancaster.
Well, with the information that we gathered from your tough questions, and I can't thank you enough for them. They were hard to hear, but they were necessary. So I told you about a blanket order is what it's commonly referred to, and it is a contract among each of the county probate courts where it says, basically, if one of my Lancaster County residents comes to your county, you will hold the hearing for them, and likewise, when your resident comes to Lancaster County, I will hold the hearing for them. And so earlier this year, as a result of me seeing that our county was carrying the weight of the state, basically, when we have more involuntary commitments than Charleston County, there is a problem. And so I sent an email to all of the probate courts, all of the elected officials across the state. I didn't make very good friends, by the way, but I believe that I'm elected to serve the citizens of Lancaster County, not every other probate court judge, although I do highly respect my brothers and sisters on the bench. I sent them an email and I explained my dilemma, that I had the weight of the state of South Carolina on our county, and they responded very well. And the problem is, if I breach that agreement, it's a two-way street. They're going to say, okay, Judge Studebaker, if you're not going to hold my hearing for my resident in Dorchester County, then I'm not doing it for your Lancaster County resident. The result of that is then I have to drive, pay from county to county, and I'm out of the office, and I'm holding hearings for residents all over the state. So that's not a good move. So I've been working and coordinating with other counties to try to figure out a solution. And what we have learned through this process is that many people go to the hospital, say, I don't feel well, and I need help. And the only way, according to the way that the statutes are written, the only way that those people can get help is if they are admitted through the involuntary commitment process. They go to the hospital wanting help. They leave the hospital handcuffed in a sheriff's department car, being transported through the involuntary commitment process. And there is a way, and we are working on it, on how to make that not be an involuntary commitment, but a voluntary.
Steve, let me ask you a question. It says update on requested position.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what's the update? Because, and I think Kim, when we were doing the budget, I think we had some priorities on that list, and we said after the audit, we would come back and look at those positions in January, and I think that position was in the.
This was one of the positions that y'all had identified, and it's in the resolution, which you'll be considering next. Judge Studebaker wanted to give an update on
So
situations.
nothing has changed as far as that priority list, and the fact that the decisions we're going to make after the audit, it still depends on the audit, right? Am I correct?
I think it's the next item on the agenda. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. This resolution would, we had some positions that we thought the grant was ending, and the sheriff was able to get a continuation. When we discussed that, y'all said, well, if the grant gets continued, then we want you to come back and specifically, I think it was Councilman Carn specifically mentioned this position and one in the coroner's office. And so those are on the next resolution that we're going to discuss. I think Judge Studebaker is just trying to give you backup information for
Right.
when it's still needed.
But this would not take effect until the second pay period in February if council approves the resolution.
Let me ask another question, because we got other positions and that we've got to make a decision on after the audit. Will all of them come back at the same time? Because this is a priority list, remember. It's going to depend on how much money we're dealing with here. At least that's
Well,
the impression I was
For
under.
these positions, we're looking at, the audit's pretty much irrelevant. We know we have savings from those grant positions, which the sheriff obtained. They had grants that re-upped. And so we have the savings there. And that would cover,
So that has nothing to do with the.
I mean, the audit has nothing to do with it.
budget. No, that's you.
Yeah, but the savings from the sheriff's department, that's one-time funding from the sheriff. And I think as a council, I want to look at our overall budget, and I think that's what we talked about.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
This would be recurring. That's one thing
That's what I'm.
mentioned to INR, mentioned to y'all.
But you know, we had a list of items that we really wanted to fund.
This
And
was
that
one
was
of them.
one of them. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
not saying that. Yeah, but we said we'll have a better idea where the budget's at after the audit. And then we had some other things we wanted to do. That would come back to us at the beginning of the year. Has any of that changed, I'm saying?
No, other than, we just have a different funding source that's available now. I think is the point of why we're talking about it now.
But that position is on the three that we're going to approve the beginning of the year. So Judge, you're just giving us an update and to justify why you need that position, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else, Steve?
Not on this.
I would like to also take this opportunity to speak to any grant funding. The probate court has never received any portion of any sort of grant funding. However, if we were allowed to sort of get in that bucket, we would be able to proactively help the citizens of our county. I'll give you a few examples. I'm participating in we started a roundtable discussion among the probate court, counseling services, and Catawba Mental Health. We are scheduled to do that the first Wednesday of every month, and we sit down, and we're doing it Zoom. We talk about how can we be more proactive and get people help rather than everything being an emergency detention order after they've gotten to the point where they are really, really in trouble. And I've spoken to you guys before about the judicial proceedings and the supplemental proceedings. Without this additional staff member, I will not be able to physically or mentally be able to do that. Thank you.
Will they voluntarily commit you then?
Yes, it would be voluntary then. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for the update, Judge. I don't think anything else you'd like to say, Steve? Alan? Okay. Anything, Steve, before we move on?
No, ma'am. This would be covered in part of the resolution we're fixing to talk about.
Okay, our next discussion action item is, Resolution 1121R 2020 regarding authorization of additional staff in the fiscal year 2020-21 budget. Let me say this before we move on. In this resolution here is too much. You got too much stuff going on. I think with these positions or whatever you're doing, you need to separate them out because you're getting confused on who's funding what. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. This resolution would accomplish several things. We, as you previously heard, council identified 2 positions that they really wanted to look at, if things were looking favorable in the second half of the fiscal year. That was the judicial assistant for probate court and a deputy coroner for the coroner's office. As you've heard, we do have some savings because of grant money that was obtained by the sheriff's office. And on that funding, what we're proposing is that starting the second pay period in February, because this would be recurring expense, and we don't have enough to start in January. If council were to approve, this would start second pay period in February. We would fund the judicial assistant for Judge Studebaker, as you've heard. Deputy coroner position for Carla Knight. She apologizes, she's in a state meeting in Columbia, couldn't be here today. I think we're all well aware of the needs in the coroner's office. Those were the 2 that were identified by council. One that was discussed with council was a crime scene technician for the Violent Crime Task Force. When we talked about the Violent Crime Task Force, you heard from the sheriff, the grant funded several positions, but it did not fund the crime scene technician, which he is going to need. We're proposing to include a crime scene technician for the sheriff second pay period in February. That would be the basically reallocation of the grant savings. And we can certainly break this up into different ones for you.
You also have an infrastructure inspector.
That's the one that it was recommitted to the administration committee. It originally went to INR, and INR heard the presentation about the need for an infrastructure inspector. Rox is here today, and the committee's permission would like to present why we need an infrastructure inspector. We were proposing to reallocate a position. We messed up on the first one. We thought it was in zoning, and it wasn't. The vacancy is actually in planning.
My question is, why is it coming up now, and why can't it wait until the next year's budget? And as I said before, I would like for you to sort of, in this resolution, separate it out so we'll know exactly what we're doing here.
I agree with Ms. McGriff. If I have an issue, we directed staff that we wanted to look at after everything was audited. And, if the sheriff has money left over, and we're going to fund that, that's all right. But you're asking us to fund these positions off of grant money, which is one-time money, and I was wanting to see the regular budget, how we stand.
Exactly.
Because we're committing future positions to one-time money.
And then
And
we got
I-
some other things out there that we had prioritized as far as, will we have enough money to do those, salaries for the convenient workers? You know, that's number one on my list right now. But you got too much going on here. It's too busy for me.
And I'd like to see, you know, we've had the pandemic, and I know several months ago, Mr. Willis, gave us a cost breakdown, but I would like an updated cost of
Exactly.
how much this county has, spent on the pandemic, and, you know, are we gonna get reimbursed for it?
And,
From the state.
and before we make a decision, I want to look at, and I don't know whether you feel the same, me and you might agree this time, but, I want to look at the overall, recommendations for the new year, what we're gonna do and how much it's gonna cost, and not in a resolution form.
Chairman, you're talking about next fiscal year?
Yeah, you know what we agreed to do at the beginning of the year. Yeah,
Well, the second half of the current fiscal.
yeah. Anything else, Steve, you like to add?
No, I mean, we're still looking at, we can do this resolution in January or whatever.
All right. Like I said, 'cause it would not take
Resolution.
Resolutions, and just
Would
break
not
it
take
down.
effect till the second pay period in February, so start looking at it. One thing while he's here, if y'all don't mind, would like Rox to give you just a 5-minute, you know, why we need an infrastructure inspector. It's a much needed position, and with your permission, while Rox is here.
Well, let me say
But
this,
remember,
Steve,
you
real
wait.
quickly. When you bring this to us, you know, let's say we were in favor of moving forward with this. I'd like to know what pay grade we're gonna put them in, job qualifications, job description, which Rox, I think, is gonna verbally do for us. So that's the kind of information I'd like to see as we talk about a new position. It's just not.
I agree with Alan.
Okay.
Okay, Rox, it's on you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, with the formation of the Development Services Division, you know, one of the things we've been doing continuously is evaluating how we do business, and are we rising to the expectation that the county set by with the volume of growth that's occurring. Through this kind of evaluation process, you know, we identified a service area that, you know, we're not providing and feel it's essential that we do provide it, and that is in the inspection of subdivision infrastructure. So at present, you know, we are through the Public Works Department, we're referred to as proof roll inspections, you know, where someone inspects, you know, the base of a road and the layers of asphalt are put down and the curbing. But that's the extent that the county is currently inspecting as it relates to subdivision infrastructure. And so as it relates to stormwater infrastructure, in terms of the pipes that are going into the ground, are they using the right materials? Are they compacted? Is the base underneath these pipes sufficient? Are the joints connecting the pipes sufficient? Did the pipes get cracked during some other stage in the construction process? None of that is being checked by the county. Correspondingly, also sidewalks. Nobody's inspecting sidewalks in terms of, are they built properly? Again, same thing. Are they built on a solid base? Are they the correct thickness? Or do they meet ADA standards? We have crosswalks that are required, you know, at intersections, and they have to meet ADA standards. We are not checking that to make sure the contractor built an ADA compliant sidewalk or crosswalk. So we are concerned. We feel that we know there is two negative consequences with that. One, most of the infrastructure in the county for newer projects is being given over to the developer and later a property owners association for long-term maintenance. And we are questioning what kind of product we're handing over to our future citizens and the impacts that will cause them long-term if poor infrastructure is installed. And we have plenty of background information we can show you where there has been some poor infrastructure constructed. Two, we're also concerned about liability. Again, particularly focusing on the ADA aspect. If you're not checking at we are concerned that there could be significant liability waiting for the county if we aren't confirming that it meets ADA standards. So therefore, and this is all services that are customarily provided by a city or county government, particularly a fast-growing community. And so we therefore believe this is actually an urgent position that is needed. And that's where I would maybe, I know there's some discussion about perhaps let's wait until a later time period to fill this, and I can understand the train of thought from a systemic standpoint, but I would actually argue this is sort of the type of position where we need to immediately begin recruitment of this position. And I say that for two reasons. One is that we have a tremendous amount of residential growth that is going on right now. We need somebody out there now. We have just active construction sites. We have a large subdivision on Henry Harris Road that is actively constructing. We have the subdivision, the Roseland project on 521 that we're all intimately familiar with. They're obviously constructing infrastructure. And then going forward, we have a slew of subdivisions that have been approved along Harrisburg Road. And we need to get the person recruited, trained, or oriented, and put in place immediately because we feel like these are urgent needs. The second reason is that this may be a tough position to recruit for. We've heard from other departments how COVID has impacted operations. I mean, some things have gotten busier, some have slowed down. For the construction industry, at least in our world, we had a slow 8 or 9 days with COVID, and then it just ramped up. And I mean, some would argue we are busier during COVID than we were pre-COVID. And so we think that this position will be a challenge to recruit for because construction folks in that industry in construction inspection have good paying jobs now. It's not a tough economy for them. And so we'd like to start that recruitment immediately because we believe it will be a challenge. So those are my reasons for the position and why we feel like we really need to put our foot on the gas in terms of recruiting for this position. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, so they would inspect sidewalks, additional inspections, they would inspect stormwater type drainage.
Pipes, outlets, inlets, yeah.
Would they inspect water lines, sewer lines?
Yes, sir. No, the Lancaster County Water and Sewer District would continue to inspect their infrastructure. And what this position would do, and I'm glad you drew that parallel, is that this position would actually do what the district does for their infrastructure. Yeah, they're out there doing this kind of work because they recognize they have to maintain it. And they don't want to put junk in the ground, if you will. And so, but no, they would still continue to inspect their infrastructure.
Steve?
Mine, start out with the stormwater. Every new subdivision going in Lancaster County except for Roslyn is in the MS4 in Indian Land. We just approved, I think, $220,000 to camera all the pipes up there. I think, storm water is taken care of. The roads, I think Public Works,
all they do is proof roll.
But I'm scared we're getting into the sidewalks, or the county doesn't take any sidewalks, do we?
We don't accept them for
I mean,
maintenance,
if we
but
talk about liability, has the county ever been sued over any infrastructure? Not since I've been here. It belongs. I'm scared we're getting into a lot of items that are could be civil issues with developers and homeowners associations, and I don't see where the county needs to get involved. Everything is inspected. All the buildings, you've got to have your ADA requirements, and at some point, you can't play Big Brother on everything. I'm just concerned that this is not a position that I don't see a need for.
Well, my concern is if we mandate something by code and we're not checking behind.
But Steve,
we've assumed the liability.
If we have positions for everything we think we need, we couldn't meet budget. My question is it now that we know how important it is? Did we not know when we were doing the budget how important this was? All of a sudden, it's important, and we got to have it today. So I'm in agreement with Steve. Right now, I don't see the need for that unless you can come up with something else that we don't know. But right now, It's, to me, it became an emergency within the last couple of weeks. How did that happen?
It's not an emergency. It's one that Rox was working on this. We did not get it in time for the current budget. And when we had the vacant position, we're not asking to increase the budget or anything. It's reallocation of existing resources.
Well, how long have we been looking for a planner in that department? Is that a year, 2 years? I mean, how long have we had that vacancy?
One of the ones we had was a planning director, and council said hold off until January on that one. So some of those were phased in.
And if you want to say anything else?
Originally, we were looking for a transportation planner. You just can't find those folks.
From what discussions I'm gathering, we could move this on to full council without a recommendation or unfavorable recommendation or favorable recommendation. So I'm listening for a motion.
Well, let me make one comment. I think the only other thing, Rox, what I've heard is, what's the risk? Meaning, are there court cases out there? Maybe you give John DeBose versus the reward, kind of thing, trying to prevent that. That is something that's in my mind, and I think.
I get frustrated. I see what has to happen now. You go look at the engineer and the requirements that are put on to do stuff. It's crazy in every different county. And at some point, it's reached that point. Affordability is something that we are going to have to look at. There's no affordable housing. And the more regulations and the more you put on at some point, you have priced everybody out of the market. And at some point as a private builder or developer, if I meet the codes and I've got the standards that this stuff is supposed to go in on, if the county starts checking it and they have problems down the road, is the county liable? I look at the liability. I look at it the other way. If it's not inspected on a sidewalk, what liability I would like to know that we have.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where I think Rox and John DeBose ought to maybe get back with us a little bit on what our exposure really is.
We can certainly do that, because I would argue, we have a code requirement. We're requiring it. Are we seeing that it's done properly? No, we're not.
Well, let's do this.
Hey, Steve, excuse me, but case law, I mean, maybe there's some case law out there that sort of shows that risk that we're at by not inspecting. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
Well, can we say that right now we're not going to vote yea or nay? We're going to ask for additional information from John as to what position is to put us in. And at one point, maybe if we have it in December, we can make that decision. But
I'd like a written job description and what codes they are going to enforce. Because I don't like the idea of an inspector that can go out there and tell me that it don't look like my soil's compacted and it's
Well, we need qualifications, we need job description, we need the pay grade they're asking for when they bring this back to us along with case law and the risk.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, Rock. You're saying that this position is not going to create any additional funding, that you're going to use money already within your budget to fund this position?
That is correct, as well as a portion of stormwater funds would pay for this as well.
But it'll be an ongoing position.
Yes.
Now, what if it comes up that you need a planner? Then what's going to happen? The money that you're using.
We would come back through the budget process and say we need a new planner,
and that would be additional money.
That position would stand on its merits at that time. And I would just ask, really two things, or just make two comments. One comment was made that stormwater is already out. We already have the stormwater department, and we're already inspecting in the MS4 area. And I would say that that's correct from an erosion control standpoint. Is the ground stabilized from mud flowing into creeks and whatnot? That is occurring and doing a very good job with that. Infrastructure is not being inspected. That's not what. the inspectors do not have the education and training for that service. So I just want to be clear on that. They're just looking at erosion control only. The second piece too is I know the conversation is focused on.
They don't inspect the stormwater?
Yes, sir. They do not. Not on the pipes in the ground
New
Scott, our county
construction,
engineer is
they're not
here.
inspecting that?
I'm sorry.
That's not part of
Yes, sir.
what we do under,
Scott, would you like to
would you
maybe
expand on
elaborate?
that?
And the other piece too, and I'll let Scott kind of jump in with the details, and also ask him to kind of describe the problems that his team sees on a daily basis. But we're focusing on some of the discussion here is focused on liability. Are we at risk? Will this be more risk or less risk? That's fine. That's very important. But I think also there's the professionalism aspect of this. What quality of infrastructure are we handing over to our future citizens, and asking these private HOAs to fix problems that maybe don't need to occur if we inspect and ensure that quality product is handed over. And so there's that aspect that's beyond liability, and that's why you see this done in growing communities inspecting this type of infrastructure. But I will ask Scott to talk about what his team sees on a daily basis and provide some more information. Thank you.
Good morning, Scott Edgar, County Engineer. I think everybody knows me. And I'm going to parlay off what something Rox just said. It's showing you what we see every day. And actually, at the 3 o'clock INR committee this afternoon, the last thing on the agenda, hopefully we can get to it, is a presentation on what we see every day. As far as stormwater piping, we do not inspect it. It's a compaction issue. We know of one, I saw an email yesterday where head walls are falling off, and when there's lack of compaction, basically the water will get outside of that pipe and run underneath it. Then the head wall falls off, then the next section falls off, then the next section falls off. We don't have compaction testing equipment. We don't have the certifications for that. I think nuclear density gauges, you have to go through a special, you have to hold it in a double locked room and all this sort of stuff because it is a hazard material. So we don't have that. There's other things beyond stormwater. We have 60 large scale projects going all the time, and we keep people running every day. So as far as a COVID thing goes, I've got inspectors going 4 days a week and writing reports 1 day. So they're not doing 2 days in the office and all that kind of stuff. So they're out in the field 4 days every week. Haven't stopped that. Never cut back to anything less than that. So I kind of we had to kind of say, look, we know our cases are mounting. Anyway, I've got to preach it. So please try to come to the 4 o'clock meeting. If not, it's in the council packet for the INR committee meeting this afternoon. But the first 15 or 16 slides are a summary of the MS4 requirements, and everything else is basically things that we see, which are not always pretty. Now understand, those are small part of a large project, but we've got lots of projects going. And every week we have several emergencies that need tending to and everything else. So when we first started, I thought, I need one inspector, so I brought Terrence on board until we realized how big of an issue it is up there. So now we've got 2 full-time inspectors, and Terrence kind of doing half deputy and kind of checking on them, so he's getting a little bit of inspection in. But to tell you the truth, we're running as fast as we can run. It's just we're one of the fastest growing counties in the state, and we have very small staff to try to get that done. As far as ADA requirements, I can speak to that. The Department of Justice, if somebody in a wheelchair has an accident, whatever, that has a cane, they have an accident, and our infrastructure is not up to regs, they can basically go to the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice says 10% of your annual budget is reworking ADA ramps. This has happened. I saw in the paper the other day where a citizen was suing the developer, the builder, and the county, and then they dropped against York County. But people do demand and expect a higher quality of product, and I want to give them the highest quality product we can give them. We don't want houses breaking in half. We don't want infrastructure pipes falling apart. Sun City can show you more infrastructure pipes falling apart than anything else. But anyway, I've got to preaching. I will just say that it is a desperately needed position. I've been screaming this for 3 years.
Scott, you lost me at the double lock, the double door locks. What has to be double locked?
Oh, a nuclear density gauge in order to test the compaction of the trenches. The Lancaster Water and Sewer Department has staff that basically come in and look at the trench before people start backfilling. And when they backfill, instead of backfilling with mud, they're backfilling with stone. Well, on most, I would probably say, we haven't checked it per se, but it appears that we don't have stone backfill around our infrastructure pipes. That's not good, in my opinion. Clay expands and contracts with moisture content. There's lots of problems. I'm going to be retired when the wave hits, and you guys won't be on council, but somebody's going to have to pay me now or pay me later. It's cheaper to pay me now than pay me later.
Well, Scott, please understand, we do understand the need. That's not what we're saying.
I know.
We're just saying we need more information to be able to move forward. I wish that you guys had have included this in your, we discussed it at budget time or next budget time, because everybody has a need.
I know they do.
Everybody needs some today.
They do.
So we've got to make decisions according to what the county can afford. That's
I understand
all we're
that
saying.
completely. I understand it completely.
So now exactly what are we looking for, Steve, to move forward?
We'll have you the job description and all the things that go with the job description for the December meeting for infrastructure. This is one that not asking to wait because it is an existing funded position. Basically, we're looking at transferring responsibility. And, you know, normally that's something we handle on a staff level. We don't go to council for that, but this is a new area of service. I want to make sure council's okay on a new area of service.
Did he name everything you want, Alan?
I would like to see these separated on the resolutions.
Yeah.
And I still, you know, the council had decided that if we had extra money, we were gonna look at, employees, additional funding for them.
And the convenience site workers. We said an additional amount if it's any
If
left
there
over.
was any available after,
Yeah.
yeah. At
So
the
that's
first of
where
the
we're
year.
at. And like I said, we understand the needs, just that we don't have enough money to go around. If we started listening to every position is important, and we know it, we can't do it.
And like I said, this one is different because it's basically a reallocation, but we'll separate them out for you.
Yeah, and then we'll go from there.
And the other ones will hold off until after the audit.
Okay.
'Cause we weren't proposing anything till February then anyway.
Whose idea was to put all this in one resolution? Yours?
That was mine.
You messed up.
Try to get it all done at once.
Okay. Anything else with this item before we move on? We're now down to discussion action item E, discussion of use of funds for COPE program building. Clay.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Hopefully, we won't be here too long with this. In your package today, in front of you, you should see a group of papers stapled together, payment request form that I filled out. This is the bills that I have billed DHEC, and the payments are starting to come in now for the COPE program. Originally, this grant was funded through DHEC to help offset the salary for the paramedic that actually goes out and does the home visits and the follow-up on the overdoses. However, there's another grant that is paying her salary 100%. So this is additional revenue that was not planned for. What I would like to do is I've been able to bill since March up through, you see the bill that I sent yesterday for the month of October. It's a total of $18,700 so far. I would like to designate that money as it comes in a special account for EMS to use for special projects. And again, I would like to refer that back to the MCI bus. We've already dedicated the CARES funds for that as the initial funding source to refurbish the bus to get it up. This is just another stream of revenue, and you can see it fluctuates by month as to how many visits we actually are able to luckily find at the house. We had a high of $4,300 one month, and then we've had a low of about $1,200. Last month we billed for $1,400. So if we can average $1,400 or $1,500, this grant runs for 2 years through DHEC. 3 years, through DHEC. So we could bank some money to help offset this MCI bus, which we don't have a quote on yet because we haven't gotten the bus here because of COVID.
So you're sort of moving money around here.
I just want to save the money. It's not going to cost the county anything. This is money that's, I hate to use the word free, but it's just reimbursement money that's coming from the state. That was supposed to be offset her salary, but her salary is already paid for through a federal grant. So it's costing the county nothing to run this program now. I just want to use the money that DHEC's paying me, put it to the side and say, here's a project, let's use it for this.
Update me on the bus. The bus is for the purpose of?
The bus is an MCI vehicle that if we had mass patients, like we had an issue a few weeks ago, we could have used it at the animal hospital in Indiana when a bunch of people was exposed to a chlorine gas, which actually turned out to be a mustard gas where they mixed some chemicals together by mistake, and wham bam, we had like 16 patients. If a nursing home was to catch on fire, if we had to mass evacuate MUSC Lancaster.
School buses on Highway 9.
School buses on Highway 9 like we had out here a couple of years ago. That's a situation where we have non-critical patients and we can transport more than one. Matt, the most we can put in an ambulance is 2 persons. We could set this up to transport 20 at one time. So we could roll out to anywhere and transport 20 patients to a hospital just like that.
But it's non-emergent.
It's
non-emergency.
no
red lights and sirens.
So we are, I know we talked about this a while back. And didn't we make a bid on one time?
We have the bus. We already have the bus. I paid for the bus in out of last year's budget. It's a federal surplus bus. I think I paid $2,200 for the bus. The bus is sitting on our property. It has tag on it. It has a title on it. It came back from the shop 2 weeks ago. They fixed the air brakes on it. I just now got to give it to the vendor who's going to retrofit it.
So you're basically just save this money to help up
Just want to bank it and say, get your approval to say, hey, as the money comes in, let's set it to the side and the EMS special account, and when the bill comes in, there's already a funding source to pay for a project.
Any questions, Steve?
One of the things so y'all know, probably need to let Veronica and Kim talk about this because they would have, from an accounting perspective, they're going to have to show it as additional revenue, additional expense, and y'all have any comments on that? Because we definitely have to run it, through them.
Well, that's up to the vendor. We're hoping to get the bus up there. We were going to try to get it last week, but we had about 4 people out with COVID, so we couldn't get it there. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get it there this week, and then the vendor will be able to give us a timeline. We'd love to get it finished by June of this fiscal year. That's up to the vendor and how busy they are.
But that money will always be designated for this particular service here. I mean,
if council approves.
If council chooses, it will be a designated fund that you set aside. Okay.
I just want to be clear that it will not be reported the way he probably wants it reported.
I just want it saved. It don't matter how we report it to me.
But he'll be able to keep up with the numbers in his books, but you'll keep up with them a different way and with her book.
I just have a copy of the invoices. That's how I'd keep up with it, which is the same copies I gave you guys. So we've been running COPE now for about 2 years, and we funded it out of the general fund. The sheriff applied for,
But what they give us is supposed to reimburse us for that cost.
to offset that, yes. So the sheriff applied for his opioid first responder grant that paid for a paramedic position to do the visits. So her salary was then referred over and is 100% paid for by his grant.
But when they're paying us, are they paying us for that position? Like, we're not,
No, I've already checked it, there's not a conflict.
okay,
So we're billing for the service, not the position now.
and if we redesignate that money to not go towards.
It can be used in any way, shape, or form that Lancaster County EMS decides they need to use it, is what I'm understanding. It doesn't have to go back to.
It becomes undesignated
And
funds.
it's undesignated money. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be used for specific expenses.
Okay.
My thing is, it was
It's
originally for
just-
EMS. I'd like to use it for something EMS to keep with the spirit.
And that's usually when something is grant funded, how you offset stuff in other areas.
But Clay, are we setting aside this money just for the bus or for other special?
Just for the bus,
And so this money will keep coming in perpetuity if
for a period of up to 3 years. Now, once the bus is paid for, then at that point, we would have to decide what to do with the extra money. And that would come back to you and ask for, okay, the bus is paid for, I've got X amount of dollars coming in, I now want to either put it to the general fund or put it to another project.
You know about how much the bus is gonna cost us?
I don't. David needs to physically see it, he said first.
I'm good with it.
We need to make a motion to send this to full council.
So moved.
All in favor? Motion carries to full council with a positive recommendation. You're up here again, Clay, with discussion of use of funds for ambulance purchase.
Yes, ma'am. In this year's budget, there was a line item to purchase EMS units. Those EMS units have been purchased and paid for through a PO. There's about $71,000 left in that line item. In last year's budget, I requested 2 QRVs through fleet maintenance that did not get approved. One of our QRVs, in your package, all this information's there. There's the quotes that I had for last year in budget for the 2 QRVs. The back line is a current printout of how much I have left in all of my budgets. And then to include the capitalized item at the very bottom, the $71,222. And then there's an additional forms that's stapled together of how much I have currently spent this year on maintenance on one of those vehicles. Out of the 5 months we've already spent in this fiscal year, it's been in the shop 2 months without being serviced. We were on a normal 3-year replacement cycle. This is the 4th year of that vehicle. I'm just asking if we can reallocate the money that you guys already gave us in this budget to purchase a QRV.
Questions? Comments?
So the ambulance come in cheaper.
The ambulances came in cheaper than we anticipated by $71,000. So
We know how to price next ambulance.
I don't know. It depends on the market now. So it could go up, it could go down.
Also, one of them this year was a bariatric truck.
One of them was a bariatric truck, so we were able to move.
What truck now?
Bariatric truck for us fat folks. That's a little bit different, so.
We call them well-rounded
we'll see the
patients.
savings next year.
So Clay, will that $71,222 be enough to purchase those
I have some in the other
QRVs?
general fund and a capital account that you guys have already, that I get every year to replace equipment. I can add those two together and actually get both of these vehicles. But that's subject to you guys allowing me to do that, move that money around.
I will definitely support it. Before I got on this council, I saw those vehicles running around, and I wondered what the heck a QRV was. And I'm very supportive of this because they are a lot of times the first one to respond to an emergency.
One of the things of the QRV that I would like to replace, this one that I've just showed you that I've spent about $6,000 on maintenance already this year. Last year we got rid of what we like to prefer is Big Blue, the big box truck. That is our SWAT truck. I'd like to move this truck in to replace that. We never replaced that last year, so it would just be taking this one off of it every day and moving it to the SWAT response, which we do probably about 3 or 4 a month with the sheriff's office, and then replace that first out vehicle.
Alan, any comment? All right, do I have a motion to, send this to full council with a
So moved.
favorable recommend? Second, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Clay. We're now down to discussion action item G, new 911 console equipment, Steve and Robert Purser.
Madam Chair, Robert's gonna come up and talk about some of the technical end. We've discussed previously with council the console equipment that we have at Public Safety Communications. December of '21 is no longer supported by Motorola. And I want to be real clear with council. We're not telling you December of '21 stuff's going to crash. It's kind of like the Windows 7. Basically, at that point, Motorola no longer guarantees parts, and they no longer guarantee software updates for the console system. We're bringing you this today. This would not actually take effect until next budget year, but Motorola has a proposal that if we agree to sign on before the end of December, they have some special pricing. I'm sure it goes into they're trying to move parts or move equipment and get guarantees for their end of calendar year bonuses or whatever. Basically, the Motorola component with equipment and installation would come to $911,755. There is a one-time $91,230 add-on for the recording equipment. And then there would be some redundant circuitry we would have so that we could always get back to that PowerMat 800 core computer in Columbia. One circuit going to Charlotte, one circuit going to Columbia. But basically it's a redundant type circuit. I know once we finish talking about some of the mechanics part of this, I need to call on Veronica because if we commit, there's things that we would have to book because
when we commit, will it require funding at that time?
It will require funding in future fiscal years, not this fiscal year.
Just a commitment that we're going to do it.
Yes, ma'am. We would be committing
to that. And also, when you talk to us, talk about where the money's going to come from. That that 900 and how many thousand?
First of all, I need to know if we commit, are they requiring a PO, purchase order?
I would think so, yes.
I have no idea. We'd have to find out.
If they are requiring a purchase order, it will be coming out of the budget's going to be reflected now.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to affect this year's budget, but
we wouldn't be paying money out. But that's why I want to have Veronica talk. We'd have to book certain expenses.
It's on you, Veronica.
What we'll have additional monthly charges, but what charges will be going away? Are there? I know there's got to be some now for.
Well, the maintenance service charges it would just be on the new equipment versus the old equipment.
So that won't change.
Actually, go up a little bit.
All right, Veronica, talk to us about this commitment to that and how we're going to separate that and where the money's going to come from.
Of course, it will be applied to this year's budget. There's a difference between budget and financial reporting, but it would affect the budget. My financial reporting purposes, it would affect that also. 923,000. Based on my initial conversations with Steve, I think he wants me to look at fund balance, but as I discussed with him at the end of last week, I think he was under the impression if the money wasn't coming out until later, then it wasn't going to be a problem. But if we have to book it now, the money's got to be there now.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make sure we have that money, what I told him. And I'm not confident right now that we do and not be below our threshold. So I need to get with Veronica about the audit and where we stand with that before I can give a straight answer.
And what's the time frame on that?
Just received the draft of the audit yesterday afternoon. Our first draft, so we have to take time to look at it. We hope to have a final draft to council for presentation at December 15th.
And Kim, how long after that will you, because if we're gonna have to commit before, the end of the year, and we're gonna need to know where our fund balance is, what,
As long as the, I haven't seen the draft yet. Typically, I mean, we're double checking things, but, I should be able, to know in time for, to let Steve know, hopefully by the end of this week. I mean, I've done my
What are
initial, where we stood, and I said we were
Yeah.
there, so.
I'm concerned about, COVID collections on our property taxes, especially commercial, which, you've got certain industries, such as theaters and all have been closed, and restaurants, and a lot of businesses have not had revenue. And I'm concerned on what our delinquencies will be.
Steve, what will happen if we don't commit?
Well, we're still gonna have to address it in future years. I, don't know what the pricing would be. We'll have to, revisit it at that point.
What kind of sales price do we have being offered to us? A 5% discount, 10% discount?
Basically, the total cost of the project is, and this includes everything from the hard line to the Carolina recording and everything, is $1,003,706.88. That also includes an upgrade agreement with Motorola for the entire first year. The hardware, software, and all upgrades are covered. Then the monthly invoices will come in as far as the service agreement, and like Steve said earlier, that is a slight increase as far as the service agreement prices.
But what discount are we getting it by December 31st?
It's more of an incentive, I would think.
Basically, for everybody that has the current equipment, they know end of life is coming. And so they're trying to get folks to go ahead and commit. They're gonna go ahead and get the equipment and not just run the equipment past end of life. So I don't know, I can't.
Financial incentive to.
No financial gain here.
If we sign,
Well, Motorola's saying there is. They're saying this is special pricing. I can't tell you what their normal pricing would be. I just know they have come to us and said, here's, special pricing valid only through the end of the year. And after that, it's back to regular pricing, whatever that number may be. I don't know.
And you can't get the regular pricing.
if we commit to something like this,
This is not.
in the negotiations, I don't know what's in this contract. Are these systems guaranteed for 10 years that they'll service it? I mean, if we're gonna spend that kind of money, I would want a commitment that they will still be servicing these things
You remember
5, 6, 7 years from
I
now.
know that
If we're gonna commit, I would want additional information. What are we committing to? Are we gonna save money? Are they gonna provide additional service at no charge? What are we committing ourselves to?
basically what we're doing, just like when you change out a computer. You hit the end of life and we're changing out to the new hardware.
Well, I mean, they don't hit the end, does anybody else service this thing? Will they continue to service them, or?
They'll continue to show up, but the thing is, they don't guarantee parts, and there will be no software updates.
What other systems are out there besides Motorola? What does York County use, or?
Motorola.
You know, and I do understand that this is a needed service. At some point, we're gonna have to sign a contract. But do we have to commit at this time without knowing the incentives and
December,
what we're getting?
end of December is our timeframe. I wanted to bring it to you today so you have time to, hey, let's kick the tires, ask questions. The guaranteed life extension, we can ask that.
Well, I think this is a discussion, a full council with no recommendation, open for discussion, because there's too many ifs here, and we don't know what we're committing to. Are y'all okay with that?
I'd like to see it go before full council.
Yeah, without a
Because we need to make a recommendation, and I think, need to know where the money would come from, because we don't want to get below that, 32% or 28%?
Yeah, I'm saying, do you want it
straight
to
now.
go without a
Yeah.
recommendation, or go to full council for discussion with a favorable or unfavorable?
Well, I think we need more information from Kim, unless Kim's saying we're not gonna go below our 20%.
I need time to look at it.
Well, let me ask for a motion to send it to full council for discussion without a recommendation.
That, we could do that for the December meeting, because that's
Do I
when
have
the
a
audit
motion?
will be.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second? Second. All in
And
favor?
that will give time
It
to
will move to full council for discussion without a recommendation.
first meeting in, yeah.
Well, the only meeting in December.
Okay, we're now down to discussion action item H, discussion of Indian Land Recreational Center remodel and expansion project, Charles Gunning with Craig Goulden and Davis. That's you.
This is me.
Right.
Madam
Thank you
Chair,
for having me.
while we're coming up, one thing just to preface, kind of where we are. We've tried to revamp some of our processes, and one of the things we're doing now, before we really get into some construction projects, we're going back, we're using third-party cost estimators and making sure that, we have, pretty good information for you. The reason we're coming today, they have the cost estimates on the Indian Land Recreation Center. We know we have a set budget for the Indian Land Recreation Center. As you're hearing what you're going to hear today, the big question is, we can trim some scope on the project. We can't trim enough to get back within budget.
Okay, what's
That's
the
kinda where
budget?
we are.
What's the budget amount? I saw it somewhere. Where's the budget amount?
3.6 or 7 million.
3.674.
Well, actually, that's the construction budget. So the entire project budget is inclusive of that plus the soft costs. That's a little further down in the presentation. And I'm happy to format this however you guys would like.
3.5 million.
The 4.221 is the total project budget.
Okay.
4.221, okay. All right, Steve?
All right. I'm happy to tailor this to however you guys want. I had planned to show you a quick project overview so you can see what the process
Whatever
was.
you like to present, and we'll take it from there.
Sure, okay. All right. Well, thank y'all again for letting me be here to share this with you. So I want to talk about the design process just to give you an idea of how we got where we're at today, and then go over the proposed design of the project, and then we can get into the cost estimate and some potential scope reductions to get closer to our project budget. So let me go to the next slide. What technology is working here? We started the project with an information gathering meeting with Parks and Rec staff to get an understanding of what the issues were with the current facility, to go through the scope that we were asked to bring to the design process, and just to identify any issues with the site. And a couple of big things that we found. One, there's a substantial erosion problem that's on the site due to poor water runoff and some other site issues. There's a drive alignment issue off 521 that we're trying to rectify, where the cut through the median is offset with the existing drive. We're trying to get those aligned so people can come and go into the site easier. And the last thing is the existing building is not sprinkled. And to meet the current code requirements, we're going to have to sprinkle the entire facility, which is, those are some big ticket items in here that you guys may not have been aware of when the initial budget was set. So just a quick lay of the land for what we have come up with. We developed a number of design concepts and talked about the pros and cons of each. We settled on one, this concept here that we're going to look at today, because we felt it brought the best advantage of functionality and really high efficiency space usage. And we're trying to keep the square footage number down on the addition to get this budget as lean as we can. So that's a significant goal here. So in the light blue here, we've got the two existing buildings on the site. The one up top is the existing EMS building, and the larger light blue block on the bottom is the existing rec center. The darker blue is the addition that we're proposing. This site scheme also includes a larger parking area, a new parking lot up front to deal with events, and when you've got multiple games on multiple courts,
There's going to be more spectators and just an enhanced parking and site design for that. And it also includes a drive connector at the bottom, that arrow at the bottom there you see, to the proposed Goodwill development. And that is a requirement of the county that we had that drive connectivity. So you can go to the next slide. This is the floor plan design that we came up with. The large block in gray is the existing building, which has got courts, offices, some multi-use classroom functions. And what we've done is we've located the new gymnasium addition on the north side of this so that we can reuse as much of the existing core space as we can. For example, we're sharing concessions, we're sharing some office spaces, and we're also allowing the circulation that connects the two to give access between the new gym and the old gym. So when you have events, you can use both spaces at the same time. That was a big item in terms of flow and how the new building was going to be used. On the left side, we've got some support spaces. At the bottom left, toilets, some additional office, mechanical rooms. And in red, we have a new main lobby entrance. And that lobby entrance is intended to serve for events. There's a second entrance down low at the bottom, where you see the arrow pointing up. And that is an entrance for day use activities. There's a separate drop-off on the site, so the parents can drop their kids off for day programs. They've got a special interest, and they've got direct access into the existing building where those programs are going to be housed. Any questions about that?
Give us just 2 seconds here.
Sure.
He's my technical person, y'all. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. Just in round numbers, in terms of building area, we've got about 12,500 square feet of renovation that we're doing for the existing building, and we've got about 16,000 square feet of new building for the addition. This does not include the EMS building that is going to be remaining on site. We identified that as an asset that we could remove some of the program, plan for the addition, move it to the existing EMS building, and let that be a shared resource since it's in relatively good shape. So those numbers don't include that. We can go to the next one. So this is a conceptual rendering that we developed for what the project might look like. One of the goals here is to create a new face for the building. It's got good frontage on 521. The community around there is just exploded with development, and we were trying to give this a dressier look, encourage some community pride, and be something that you guys could be proud of. So the materials on the outside are brick veneer. We've got some glazing that's proposed to let some natural daylight into the lobby space, into the corridor, and some simpler materials as we get into the larger volumes of the gym, and which would be metal wall panel, just to bring some economy to this. So once we finish that design process, and this is a design development phase is what we've completed, which is kind of a middle step into getting some biddable drawings. We've given that to a third-party cost estimator that is our consultant, and they have come up with an opinion of probable cost. And this is based off the plan and the rendering that you saw just a second ago. And the construction cost estimate is $4.63 million. Now that does not include soft costs or contingencies. So we realized that we did have a budget overage, and we took some follow-up steps to try and mitigate some of that. I want to say one thing about this estimate. It includes two things. One, it includes an escalation rate. So it anticipates a construction time of next year in about 6 months. So as time goes on, traditionally building construction increases. So every year that escalation rate would go up and up and up, just to give you a sense of that. So that's included a 3% escalation rate. And it also, these cost estimates also are intended not to give you the low bid. They're intended to give you the average. And of course there's art in this, and it is definitely opinion, but we use this to help us just gauge where we're at in the process. So there's, you know, a good chance bids could be right on this number, they could be lower, and there's a good chance they're going to be higher, but the intent for this number is the average. I put together a summary here, and I've got a hard copy if y'all would like one. I'd be happy to distribute that, but I put together a summary of this based on the existing budget that we have of 4.221. And when we back into the soft costs of this, and the soft costs are FF&E or owner-provided items, so it's furniture, fixtures, equipment, things that aren't, you know, fixed to the building. Design fees and other regulatory fees that are part of the design process. And then I strongly recommend including a contingency in this because, you know, there's a lot of unknowns. This is existing building, and there's, you know, construction is messy business sometimes. So we've anticipated a 5% contingency with this. And that gave us a building construction cost of 3.675 in round numbers. And if you can see the overage to that, between 3.675 and 4.6, we're significantly over with that. If you go to the next one. So we took this information and did some brainstorming to come up with some cost reduction items. And the goal here is to try and preserve as much of the program and the I guess, space needs that the Parks and Rec staff identified early on, and get the cost down a little bit. So the first thing that we identified was this parking lot that is up front. It's not required for code. It's a great amenity to have when you've got multiple games going on, and it's something that could be added later. So we established that as a potential item to remove to gain some costs. The remainder of the parking and the remainder of the drives here that you see in black are going to be code required for fire department access, parking, and again, that connectivity that's required for Goodwill. We then moved to the building, and again, this is these are changes without reducing the square footage or changing the scope of services that are going to be happening in the building. So we came up with a number of strategies to get some money back. One is lowering the height of the gym, reducing the height of the lobby, eliminating the glazing over the corridor. Those are all nice things. I think they would be make some really high quality space, but it's not required to do the function that needs to happen in here. And we also made some further reductions to some of the exterior walls.
And what's that reduction cost?
We're going to get that one just in 1 second. So here is kind of a comparison of the three options or the three phases of this process that we've been into. One, the initial budget. Two, the original design that we sent to our estimator. And three, the reductions in scope that I just mentioned to you a second ago. So basically, we feel that with those reductions and and eliminating the parking lot in front, we could get the construction cost down to 4.35, which with soft costs would bring the project budget to 4.937. That's approximately an overage from our original budget of $716,000.
Let me ask a question. The first thing I look at is in a gymnasium, I always think of ceiling height as being important, you know, because of the activity. Would lowering the ceiling height be something that would hurt, or what could I ask for a recommendation from Catherine?
Ask Al and Catherine.
Alan, I mean,
for volleyball, it's going to be a consideration.
Because I'd hate to see us do something that we put all this money in, and we have a building that.
For basketball, it wouldn't affect us a whole lot. But for volleyball, which we think this facility will attract a lot of volleyball tournaments, because we're going to be able to have multiple courts in both facilities, and it would affect that because you played volleyball before and you know.
Yeah.
So I think in a gym, getting the ceiling as high as possible is great because y'all don't have to pick balls out of the ceiling.
That's what I don't want to build a building that's not functional. I mean,
But
And-
we have gone and used the high school sporting guidelines for this, and so we set the bottom of the structure at 23 feet. So we feel like that is a reasonable height to perform those activities in there. But being higher is certainly, better.
Yeah. And I know he touched on the parking lot, and I know that's been a touchy subject, especially with the library down at Kershaw and things. I don't know, you wanna build this really nice building and then have gravel parking lot out there. I don't even know if the UDO allows it. I don't think it does.
I was saying, with all this, we're still looking at $1.2 million over budget. I can't seem to clear my head on that, so.
Well, with the scope reductions of the parking lot and the reduced heights, the budget gap is about $716,000.
63,000, but we also discussed that we want to keep it the height where it's functionable for volleyball or whatever. That's going to move the over budget additional amount.
And that goes back to that original estimate of 1.93.
Yeah.
And again,
Well,
that scope
probably
reduction, that scope reduction is it does meet the high school athletic requirements for the height of those. But like I say, it is higher the better, so.
What's the height of the gymnasium there now?
It's kind of tricky because it's a metal frame structure, so it's got a really high peak.
Lower on the edge.
Yeah, okay.
And the roof, I think that they're proposing for the other is not like that.
No, it's flat.
Okay. I really like the design. I think that's a beautiful building, and it looks very functional. I like the way it flows in the corridors. You're going to be able to get people in and out. And like Hal said on that parking lot, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that will be required. I mean, to be paved. I mean, we can't. Yeah, you can't. We can't make a requirement easier on the county than we do on the private individuals.
And there was things that we talked about and Charles brought to the table, and Kelvin's been involved in this the whole time too, and he can attest to this, that there was things in here that brought to the table that would really dress this building up and make it really nice, with some LED lighting in the lobbies and things like that, to make it look really good. But we'd cut all that out, bare bones, just basic what we need, as far as tiling, as far as flooring, as far as lights, those type of things. We cut it. I don't know what else we can cut other than the square footage of the building.
Let me ask a question about money, because that's what it's going to come down to. We have our hospitality funded, and we're going to, target to build our big park. Well, apparently the hospitality bonds right now are dead. And I think in July took it 150,000. I don't think our hospitality fund has crashed. Since this thing to me is going to be delayed a year or two, and a lot of this money is coming from the Panhandle, is it possible to use 3 months or 4 months worth of hospitality taxes to pay for it? I don't know if anybody else wants to hear that.
Before we get into spending that money, Steve,
I mean, it had to go
that's a discussion we don't need to be having right now, because that's a discussion we need to have with Franny before we move forward. But we know we're over budgeted. This money came from the $19 million bond referendum, right? And we were budgeted at, 4.2. Now, we know we're over budget. I think I heard Steve or someone mention the balance from the garage.
Well, we do have one thing we could talk about is have a balance of fleet maintenance. However, council's previously talked about utilizing that to acquire property from the water and sewer district. So, not all of that might be available. The one thing, that, you know, this is going to be a capital project, and this is one, again, we'd have to talk to Veronica and talk to Franny. Would it be appropriate to issue a small additional bond? I have no idea, and I'm posing the question to Veronica.
Now, okay, let's back up. The voters agreed to not to exceed 19 million for the referendum. We only borrowed 11.5. That was for the fields and partially giving money to the Lindsay Pettis Greenway. So that leaves us 7.5.
That's undesignated.
7.5 of the not to exceed 19.
Okay.
We have not borrowed the 7.5 yet. We were waiting on numbers from, because I wanted to be sure about what the estimates were going to be for the recreation, and I didn't want the money just to be sitting there. And we owe Lindsay Pettis Greenway 1.2. So that leaves up to 6.3 of the not to exceed for, if council so chooses, for the recreation building.
And how are the other projects to come in?
We're getting ready to go out to bid on those, and probably the next, what would you say,
Yeah,
Kim?
well, they're in the permitting process right now, so, you know, we have a 95% completed drawing, so very soon they will be going out to bid.
So you're saying we got money unspent, but we got projects that's still on the table from that bond referendum?
That is correct.
Okay.
So once we find out, we have not borrowed the balance, but once we find out what this entails and finish the other projects.
The other projects, they feel good about the numbers. And
Yeah, they've been estimating throughout the whole process.
They've been really good on this.
I want to reiterate one quick thing that Charles touched on, is that the estimate is not meant to be a low bid type estimate. It's meant to be more of an average, and probably more on the higher end of the average. So, just based on some of our more recent projects, we have been getting some pretty good pricing. The EMS headquarters, we didn't have any bids come in above our estimated amount. So all of them were pretty low. So we might be in a good market right now. Just want to reiterate that these are just estimates.
I'm a small residential builder, and costs in my little world are high, and the commercial is a different
even
class,
with,
and this stuff is, I imagine the inflation in the commercial is, it was about 12% a year. I think, no, 6% a year, what, 0.5% a month or something like that? I don't know what the increases are. But.
Well, I'm just saying, just the bids that we just received within the last 2 weeks, all of them are lower than the estimate.
Okay.
There's 8, 9 contractors who were, say for the base bid, the original was 900,000. The highest one we had was right at 800,000. So that's just an example that we're getting some pretty good prices.
Even with that, Kevin, the budget is 4.2 million. If we're over, we've got to decide on how we're going to pay for that overage.
That was estimated on 3 years ago.
It was 3 years ago, because this was a pay go.
Yeah, but still, it's there. This is what we're working with. So if we're going to move forward, even with some of the cuts that we did, where is the money going to come from if all those other projects are fulfilled with the $19 million bond? What other options do we have to meet budget?
You should have, as long as remember his other projects are within the money that we already have. That's the 11.5. So
you're saying we are okay?
As long as
that's what I want to hear. We are okay.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Comes in, we're fine.
Y'all wanna put your initials on there and say we are okay.
Yeah, and And the other thing that I believe Charles touched on it, he gave what was how much it increases each year that you wait?
Yes, so this anticipates about a 3% escalation factor to what you were describing just a second ago. And the estimators look at, data over the course of, previous years, and they try and get their crystal ball out and guesstimate. So we've got a 3% escalation anticipated between now and a potential start of construction date in 6 months.
And in 6 more months, it could go up.
I think we have the money.
If we're good within that budget, I don't have a problem with it. Unless you're gonna give us some money.
I think it's it's based on the decision, even though we have that leeway. It's still up to council about what, how far you want to go.
We decided on 4.2, and we see now that we're over budget, but we're within the $19 million that we borrowed. Even if we spend this money and we still don't spend the $19 million, we can do other things with it, but will it have to be within those things that we agreed to in the bond referendum?
Madam Chair, I guess if we could get some guidance, I think that's where Veronica's going. We know kind of where we are. You've seen some of the cuts. It seems that reducing the height is not finding favor with the committee. So, okay, kill the idea of the height. And beyond that, let Hal and the architect Kelvin work together to say, what are some of the things? The parking lot we got to put back in. Kelvin, you got to comment?
Well, I just wanted to say, just based on some of the information that Ms. Veronica's given us, it makes sense in my mind to keep the parking lot, the height, maybe be more with the original design. That will give Hal and Rick more of what they really want. These were more cuts based on the budget.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with reducing the height if it's high school league approved. That should give us enough clearance as long as it's
As long as if that's, I just wanted to make sure
that would save us some money.
Yeah, just as long as y'all are comfortable with the activity to be going in that, that building.
And the other thing is,
if they say if it's,
you look at your two renderings side by side, the front fascia of that building, and Charles I'm sure can explain that. You're looking at covering the old building up versus just painting it.
We were trying to, the existing building was done at a different time, and the whole corridor was a very different place, I'm sure, when it was built. And we were trying to give that a facelift, and part of that strategy of how we arranged the spaces was to be able to, basically conceal the existing building from the front, just to give it a dressier look and just have a place where people could be excited about when they drive up to it. And the lower height you start seeing some of the existing building more than you do.
See the pitch of the roof and all.
Yeah, right there in the front.
From what I gather, we're okay, and I think if we can go back and make those adjustments to the height within the high school codes, I think we'll be all right. It's just that coming up with final numbers, once we do that, if the money is in the budget, beautiful facility, I have no problem.
I think I need to make sure, check with Veronica, make sure we're okay legally reallocating some of the excess. But I think Veronica had a comment as well.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. But the other thing is you still have 1.2 left from the reallocating of the fleet portion of the bonds that council needs to decide what to do. So I just want to throw that out there too.
Now, was that the facility down on?
We have talked about that. One of the things I'm waiting to hear back. This is a whole different topic. Water and Sewer District is considering going ahead and paying to demolish those buildings, and then we would just be acquiring the land, because the buildings are not functional unless you're going to build another water plant.
That'll be another discussion.
Yeah.
If we would want to pay that much for a convenience
But
site.
one of it certainly wouldn't pay all that. There would be some cost to upfit the convenience site, but I think where Veronica's going, that's a discussion we're gonna have this spring.
Yeah, what's the time frame on that money, spending that money?
The bonds were issued in May of 2019. I think you have up to 3 years, so May of 2022.
So at this point, you're looking for a recommendation to move forward so the next phase is to actually do the drawings and bid it out?
Finalize the drawings, get them ready for permit and bid it out.
So we would finish the construction documents, we would send it to permitting, and we would also be performing an interim cost estimate.
On a couple of these items, like the reduction of the height, that's really, if it was bid out, that wouldn't be major problems in drawings or anything, would it? For additional, not a lot of additional cost of bidding it both ways, or I don't know.
This would be the time to make that decision. Part of the cost savings and that reduction of height is to remove the clear story glazing over the corridor, and that was a really different structural system.
Oh, okay.
I think that's generating a lot of that savings.
And if you
So Hal, once you check with the specifics of the regulations on height, then we'll know whether
I
that'll.
think he's already done that.
He's already done that.
Okay, it's good. We're good. Okay. So where do we go from here, Steve? To move it forward to full council, or
No,
what?
at this point, we won't run it past the committee because, as Kelvin indicated, we needed some guidance on were you comfortable spending the additional funding, had questions on the height, but now it's got to be designed, it's got to go to the technical review committee and then be bid out. So we're not.
So we're okay as long as we can move forward after discussion with Fran to see whether we can use some of that additional monies, right?
I think we're good on that.
We're good on.
We want to make sure y'all are good on that.
We're good on that. I mean,
Okay.
that's one of the purposes of the bonds, just making sure that, council, I'm waiting on them to get the rest of the money.
Okay.
And waiting
I
on you all
just
to make a
wanna
decision.
Make sure that, this and the library up there at Anyland, when you come into the county, these are the first buildings that are county property that people will form their image of our county off of. And, I'm conservative, but I would hate to see us cut corners and, where this could be a show place, and it will be used.
And as Hal indicated, where they can reasonably cut, they cut. But again, I want to make, a decision like this, I want to at least make sure the admin committee was on board with keeping the height and, using some of the additional funding.
Well, what's the next step? Next steps.
The chairman's challenged me here.
I can't
So
believe he's not talking.
We've got a $16 million bond out there that, a potential, that the voters voted on, right?
19.
So we're getting the numbers in from the fields that we feel good about. We gotta give the Greenway theirs. And so we have plenty of money left over to do the additional height, right?
Yes, sir.
See,
We think so.
People spoke, not me. No, this is not a Alan.
No, I'm talking about
conservative.
speaking to this budget.
But I think we leave the parking lot and leave the extra height in there to make it an attractive building at this point, since it will come under the 19 million.
I'll make that recommendation.
All right, do we need it? How do we need to
Well,
do that?
y'all made a recommendation. We're going to go ahead and move on that. And this won't come before council as long as we stay within budget. It's good to go.
Well, we want to keep moving on because we don't want the
You got a
expense to keep going up.
Question, if we saved money, so we did not use the whole 19 million, what would that money be used for?
Not anymore.
Well, we still have 2 soccer parks in this to build, and we know how things are, there'll be overruns. There's going to be stuff that we hadn't thought about.
Now, the soccer parks are coming in okay.
Well, we hadn't bid on it yet.
Yeah, well,
The cost estimates are coming in okay.
Okay.
you know how all this goes when we get to the end. There's stuff that, that's not showing up that are gonna be surprises.
One other item, I know we have the initial design, so it sounds like you're wanting us to stick with this design versus the alternative. We do have some proposed alternatives that were not included in the budget, like the playground. I know that's a big item.
Well,
Yeah, we don't wanna talk
we'll
about
worry
it.
about that. We'll muddy them waters later.
Yeah, don't muddy the water, Kevin.
Yeah.
Let's keep it clean.
Let's do this.
But one of them is critical, and I mentioned this to Steve the other day,
Curbing.
was curbing in the parking lot because of the erosion issues we have up there.
Yeah.
The other
only
was
8,000.
if you've been in our buildings, you know how our older buildings, the insulation is around the top of the gyms. The insulation needs replaced up there, and that was an alternate. We were gonna patch it, but it needs replaced.
Okay, yeah,
It'll be bid as an alternate, so.
yeah. But yeah, you're gonna have to have curbs and all that in your parking lot anyway. All that's gonna be, technical review committee gonna require all the erosion control and storm drainage and all that.
And, Mr. Steve, anything else? We've just given them the, go ahead to move
Yeah, we
forward?
go ahead and move forward on, getting the designs out, get it to technical review committee, and get it out on the street to bid.
And what's the time frame you think on that, Kevin?
We need to just reevaluate our schedule because we have had a pause here to get on your agenda to present this to you to get some direction today. But our initial goal was to have this out to bid by the end of the year. And I think we probably, in that process, pushed it out several weeks. So it might be mid to late January as a guess.
Okay. Anything else concerning this? All right, thank you. We're down to discussion action item I, review of the 2021 calendar meeting schedule for council, committee boards and commissions, and advisory boards for change, additions, or deletions.
We discussed that last night. We're changing January to committee of the whole. Other than that,
Okay.
no change.
Anything else, Steve, would come for the committee? Anybody else? Alan, you're good?
Yeah, well, I made a request to the chairman for a breakdown of legal fees from year over year. He sent that to you, Steve.
Legal fees?
You got a summary. We saw some costs. What I was really looking for was year over year, what we're spending, how I can try to figure out why we're spending.
Yeah, and some of it's gonna change because some of it was salaries, now contractual, so.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
that's why, I mean, we need to keep grasp on that as to contracting versus salaries.
Yeah, the last time we hired a legal person, I think this cost determined, when we looked at the cost, we determined that we could have an in-house person. Maybe we might be ready to go back and have that discussion. I don't know, but it's
Till we get some information.
we'll look at.
We can, and again, when we had the in-house attorney, he's the one that recommended, no, we're better served, contracting out, so.
We'll see, won't we? If it's no other business to come before the committee, do I have a motion to adjourn?